Good morning, this is Mark of the Expert Corner Group. I have here my personal Wicked Edge 130 that has all of the accessories on it in order to make this what I call my Pro Mod model. This Wicked Edge 130 is the one that I use to experiment with, to see what I can achieve, what angle settings and what sharpening processes I can achieve using this setup. This is a Wicked Edge 130 that has been raised with the stable riser, that is the clamping system that you have here, but it also has an additional riser block underneath that raises the whole gambit very high relative to the ball and swivels. Now, by giving it this height, what it does is it allows me to get closer to the blade because I am now up above the vise. See, the vise is like this. If you look down on the sides of the vise, as it gets lower in the vise, it gets wider. So by adding the extra riser block, I've taken the narrow part of the vise and raised it up above the wider portion. So now by working with these very long guide rods, I think these might be 15-inch guide rods or 16-inch guide rods, I'm starting very high up relative to the vise. So I am reaching around the wide part and I'm starting higher up above it. So I'm starting very high up as compared to the edge. You can see the base of the stone is very high up on the vise, but then because of the long guide rods, I can use the full stone length. And the way that this is orientated and raised up, I'm able to stay above the wide portion of the vise down here. Now, what does this do for me? Well, with my stone now centered on the edge, raising the stone stop up to support it, I'm right now at 7 degrees because I am essentially parallel to the knife edge. I am above the wide portion of the vise down here and I'm working above it, so that as my stone goes up to the edge and back down, I'm staying above the wider portion. This augmentation of the geometry has gotten me up above the wide portion. So right now, let me see if we can get this over here so you can see it, but I am at 7 degrees. And to show you, I'm going to put a piece of paper here behind the blade all the way up to the edge. So it is 7 degrees. Now let me move this back. Bear with me. Now the point is, if I didn't have the blocks and everything and the longer guide rods, I could not use a Wicked Edge to achieve those angles. So I have accessorized the setup to allow me to shift the geometry that I can make, achieve bevel angles that would otherwise be unheard of. So 7 degrees on a knife, that to show you, I am down below the edge and I am up above the edge. And I haven't touched the vise yet. So about 7 degrees is the lowest. It's sliding. You can see the stone is sliding completely behind there. So 7 degrees is about the lowest minimum angle that I've been able to achieve. And that is because this is a very tall knife. This is a Takeda Aogami Super that's clad and also has the black finish on it. So it's a unique sort of knife. I challenge any of you to try to find one. I bought it when someone told me about it years ago. So I hope I made the point that without this geometry shifting, this is unachievable. But because of the bolt-on accessories and the modularness that allows me to stack and augment, I've been able to learn through years of playing with this how to offset the wicked edge and to expand the angle capacity of it. Now it is a little unorthodox for some of you to take a $500 sharpener and then start playing with it, but at the same time it allows you to do something that you couldn't normally do. But at the same time, by augmenting my setups and adding the blocks and the geometry, I also remove them from the normal capacity. So by making them specialized to do the low angles, I do remove the wide angle capacity from the unit, which is why I have several different wicked edge setups. I have some that I use like this one, which is my experimenter that I use for very low bevel angle settings. And then I have other ones that if I'm looking to go wide, I would use those. So I wanted to point this out to you that it is possible to achieve as low as a 7-degree angle. But I have, again, I'm saying I have shifted the knife edge up above the wide portion of the vise. So I'm working, everything is up above the wide portion of the vise so that it allows me to achieve those lower angle settings. Now without this, you couldn't come back and do another touch-up. Now let me add something to it. I am clamped right in the knife. I do use the stable riser. I've learned to use the stable riser because I clamp my knives. Let me turn this a little bit. I clamp my knife blades centered on the length pretty much. It may not be measured exactly this distance to that distance. It may be within a ½ inch or so. But I balance my blades. Well, when you have this handle hanging all the way out here and you're here working behind it, it's not difficult to rest on this. And if you do rest on this, it is a lever arm hanging out here from this center point. And any kind of little bit of pressure on here, I don't care how well the clamp holds, it can twist it. So the stable riser clamping system, this saddle that adjusts and slides underneath and then you raise it and strap it, that keeps the knife from sliding this way, from rotating down in the vise, because even though I have a clamping aid in here to hold it tight, excuse me, it doesn't take much pressure here on this lever arm to offset it. So by adding, even though this knife is short enough and it's stiff enough that you really don't need this stability, I do use the stable riser to stabilize anything that I can clamp. I stabilize just to do it. Just to make sure that from the start to the finish, this blade is staying stable and locked where I put it. So that's why I use the stable riser anytime I can. I can clamp a very small knife with the stable riser because these slide in and out. I use it when I don't have to, just for the added stability. So just So you can see that it is possible to achieve angles as low as 7 degrees, but I have removed the knife from the normal orientation and raised it up above and augmented the geometry with riser blocks in order to give me a rig that is special for low bevel angle settings, clamped directly in the vise. So you can use your low angle, your alignment guides and your advanced alignment guide, because they fit in the pinholes. So that's another advantage. You have the stability of being able to clamp your knife right in the vise. You have your use of your alignment guide, so it's repeatable. You can measure it, mark your setting on your sharpening log, and you can go back to that again. Over the next few days, weeks, I'm going to see, I've always wanted to put this knife, I think, is about a 15 degree. And I've read that there's people who have put down 10, 11 degrees on it. It's a very, very thin knife. It's almost a parallel full flat ground with just a bevel on it. It's not a tapered grind. So I want to look to maybe put a 10, 11 degree on this to see what happens with it. Thanks. Have a good one.